Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and today you're going to find out about a new book marketing platform for audiobooks and print books if you'd like to do that as well. So before we get started, I want to remind you this coming Thursday, we have our Go High Level monthly training. This month, it is surveys, forms, and quizzes. You can sign up for that at ghlmonthly.com. That, again, is on October 16th. So today's guests, we actually have two of them. The first one is Jared Kuritz, and he is a publishing and marketing innovator with more than 2 decades of experience working with traditional, hybrid, and indie publishers and authors all over the world. Jared is the president and CEO of Strategies, Public Relations, and the CSO and CMO of Zoundy, which is what we're going to be talking about today, a cutting-edge audiobook marketing platform. You can learn more about this at strategiespr.com and zoundy.com. And when I'm doing this, Zoundy is spelled Z as in zebra, O-U-N as in Nancy, D-Y.com. Our second guest is a returning guest that we've had many times before. It's Tina Dietz. And Tina, I'm looking for her bio here. Tina is an award-winning vocal leadership expert and pioneer in voice-powered publishing. Recognized by Forbes, Inc., ABC, NBC, CBS, and the Chicago Tribune, she is the founder and CEO of Twin Flames Studios, a leading audio publishing company known for its craftsmanship, quality, and client-first experience. Through her leadership at Twin Flame Studios, Tina has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs, content creators, and industry experts bring their voices to life. Her team produces world-class audiobooks and craft books, from podcast content transforming spoken insight into assets that build trust, expand reach, and open new doors for visibility and revenue. So stay tuned for our interview with Jared and Tina. Jared and Tina, welcome. It's great to have you guys.
Great to be here. Thanks.
So I'm really excited to hear about this new platform because I don't think authors use their audiobooks to build their audience as much as they can to generate sales and expand reach. So this is really exciting that there's something new out there. So let's start with creation. Too often authors treat an audiobook as an afterthought. What's the risk of that? Because I know my authors do that a lot. We get the book out and then it's suddenly, oh, what about that audiobook?
Yeah, it's a big problem. And 500 audiobooks later and 10 years working in the audiobook industry, we still see not just authors, but publishers and the whole publishing industry, despite the fact that audiobooks outsell eBooks 3-1, despite the fact that audiobooks have been the fastest growing format in the publishing industry for 14 years running, still treating this like the unwanted stepchild of the publishing industry. So and the weird thing is that audio has such high demand, and your voice is such a thumbprint of your brand, particularly in nonfiction. Stepping over the opportunity of doing an audiobook not only kind of hurts your sales, your marketing, your ability to get your unique voice and message out into the world, but quite honestly, it also kind of hurts the quality of your book, because if you design a book with audio in mind, it becomes more conversational, it becomes more polished, it becomes more you. So I'm sure Jared has additional thoughts to add on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said, and I would piggyback off that to say that I think part of the problem is people feeling that it's a little inaccessible. I mean, if we're looking at 15 years ago, an audiobook that would cost $15,000 to $20,000 to produce is now going to cost $3,000 to $5,000 to produce. So the accessibility of it is so much easier now, and people don't necessarily realize that. So it's more of an education gap than anything else. And I also think that up front, whether you are self-publishing your work, working with a hybrid press, or even working with a traditional publisher, understanding what you want to accomplish at the front end and factoring the audiobook in at the front end so it doesn't feel like, another financial kick in the stomach at the end, like, oh, yet another thing I need to stack on, is really important. I mean, if you were to ask me whether or not, if someone was coming out with a book, if they should come out with a print or the ebook print or audiobook first, I would be hard pressed to say print these days, because how you can leverage it, what you can do with it, and everything else is so much greater with audio. Now, that said, by the time you get done with the editing and the design and everything else, it's worth having the print book out there as well. I mean, but I think it's really an education thing at this point. Anybody you're working with, or even if you're working on your own to bring your book to market, you need to do your research and just factor it in as an expected cost at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Number one, because I can't remember the last time I read an actual book, other than the ones that come in my door all the time to publish. But I'm a huge audio listener. That's all I do when I go running, when I'm in the car, when I'm sitting, just at my desk working. So, I think the market is huge. And I don't know about you guys, but I see everybody at the gym with earbuds in, and they're probably doing the same while they're working out. But that does bring back the problem of, well, you mentioned research. When authors plan their books, they don't plan the entire budget a lot. So, I think that's where they get caught up with the audiobooks is, well, I didn't budget for this. And, so that is a huge mistake. So when you're looking at the mistakes people make with audiobooks, and believe me, nobody makes them when we send them to Tina, and that's who we send them to. But when they go to other companies, what's the biggest mistake you see audio or authors do with their audiobooks?
Oh, trying to do it on their own. By far, that is the 100% biggest issue. And that's if they're trying to narrate it on their own, or if they're going to work with a professional narrator, because from any other walk of life, but specifically audiobook narration, not even voiceover in general. All voiceover gets plugged into this same pile, but being an audiobook narrator is an incredibly different profession than being someone who does voices for, say, cartoons, or someone who does voices for commercials. It's a different animal. And having done some of both myself, the stamina needed to be an audiobook narrator is incredible. The ability for these narrators to keep track of different voices and be consistent throughout 50 to 150,000 words of text is incredible. So whether you are working with a professional narrator or you are wanting to narrate it on your own, you really shouldn't be doing it alone. You either need training, you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a course. You'll need to work with a company like mine to make sure that when you get to the end, you actually have audio that you can submit. Because unlike podcasting, which you can get away with a much lower quality of audio, you can't distribute onto audiobook platforms unless you have very specific standards already met in your audio, some of which you can't fix at the end.
Yes. And I've actually tried to do some reading on my own, and it's the breath work. Unless you're a professional voice actor, you don't have the breath work. And I think a couple years ago, I actually gave you someone who had done them themselves, and you guys couldn't clean the huffing out of it because realize that breath work that happens. Jared, what do you think those mistakes are?
I mean, everything Tina said, and what I would say to any author that's like, well, I have, my expensive recording equipment. I have a soundproof room. I can figure out the editing. You're going to waste money because ultimately you're going to have to hire someone to clean it up and get it done correctly, or you're going to have to redo it. So most people don't like to do their own dental work. You also don't want to do your own audiobook recording work. You need a team. It's like it's no different than someone that tries to do their own editing of their manuscript. Like, you can't, you're too close to it. You need a team. And it can be as simple as having someone where you work remotely, where you have a director or sound editor there with you in the process, or it can be where you go in studio and do it. But ultimately, the recording that you spend 8 to 12 to 14 hours on your own, at least 2/3 of that time is going to have to be redone to be done professionally. So absolutely work with the right team.
I wanted to add on to that, Julie, because one of the things that we do, not just for authors who come to us independently, but we are the audio kind of division for some larger hybrid publishers. And they have the option of letting their authors go to wherever they want. We clean up or will analyze those audio files when they come in. And in 10 years, we have never been submitted a set of audio files from any studio, from any other company, from someone trying to do it on their own that didn't need to be fixed. Never in 10 years have we found that anyone had those audio files done correctly, even at professional studios who claimed that they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the industry when people bring their own covers. We have the same problem. I'm a graphic designer. I can do it.
I'm a graphic designer. That's my favorite line. I'm a graphic designer.
I can do this. And then it's like repeat. I'm uploading all these versions because they didn't do it, to the specs. And it's industry specific. But Tina, I want to talk to you a little bit more about, there are other things when you guys actually give people a producer, and it can be as simple as one day I'm nasally, the next day I'm not, and my voice has to be consistent throughout the book. Isn't that one of the standards that they have, is that quality has to be there, and you can't take my nasally little voice out of there.
No, we run into things all the time where someone will try to push through a cold, or honestly, they're having a really crappy day and they can't bring the energy to their voice that they did the day before. Or they try to record in the morning when the rest of the book was recorded in the evening. Our voices change throughout the day. So all of our, we're known for being the world's first fully remote recording and remote produced audiobook company. So we work all of my producers have ears like bats. So we're hearing the mouth click, the dry mouth, the gurgling of your stomach, the rustling of your clothes. So we work with our authors on all of these little things that you might not realize, that you might not even be able to hear if you're not used to listening for it, to create this pristine audio experience. And then you don't have to worry. So you can relax and actually perform and be inside of the work like a conversation. And that is really what sells audiobooks, is the quality of the narration.
And I know we're talking about, I just want to jump in here. I know we're talking about self-narrated audiobooks where you're narrating your own book, but this also absolutely applies to people that want to bring their book and have it narrated by a quote unquote professional narrator. With the absurd rise of audiobooks, there's obviously parallel to that is the crazy rise of professional narrators, which vary greatly. And so all of these same rules apply when you are looking to have a third party narrate your book for you. You still need them to have a professional studio. They need to know how to edit the files and everything else. And sometimes I know of in 10 years, I know of one unicorn that can do it all himself. That's it. And he is an absolute savant when it comes to that. But for the most part, when you're shopping a narrator, the narrator still has their own team. The narrator has an editor, sometimes a director that listens in, and then ultimately the files get cleaned up and they get mastered. So it's okay to work with a mom and pop narrator company, but you really need to ask them what their team is and what their process is to make sure that ultimately you're going to get the product that you want. And a little tip is, don't let them send you just samples of their finished work from someone else's book. Have them read a portion of your book as a sample so you know what they sound like reading your book.
Yes, that's excellent advice. And the voice appropriateness, if you're going to read your own book, I think I've mentioned to Tina before, a very well-known author read one of the characters in her book and she had a lisp. And I actually love her work, but I couldn't get through the lisp and why anybody let her do that as part of her book as well. So let's flip this a little bit. What's the one strategy that really works to make an audiobook connect and sell? And I'm going to go with Jared this time because I keep favoring Tina.
Let me start off by saying there isn't one strategy. And this has always been my thing. I've spoken on panels for the last 20 plus years, and I'm always stuck on panels with other book publicists and marketers. And they're always saying, oh, here's our gold package or our silver package. Here's our magic social media bullet or anything else. And they get to me and they say, well, what's your one thing? And I say, listen, every book is different. Every audience is different. Every person's goal with their book is slightly different. Except everyone says they want to be a New York Times bestseller and on Oprah. But other than those two goals, everything else is different. So what I really tell people is the magic bullet for me, and it sounds so simple, but once it's applied, makes all the difference in the world, is the second you want to capture any value from your book that you're bringing to market, I don't care what format the book's in, but the second you want to capture any value, it goes from hobby to profession. And the biggest mistake that I see authors make at any level is they don't treat it like a business. So the number one magic bullet that I tell everyone is establish a business model. And I break it down into 3 very simple questions. What are you creating? How are you delivering it? And what value do you want to capture from it? You can apply those 3 questions at the front end to literally what you're creating. Ebook, print book, audiobook. How are you delivering it? You choose your delivery methods and your distribution and fulfillment methods and so forth, and the value you want to capture from it. Sometimes it's credibility and veracity. Sometimes it's royalties. Sometimes it's something else. And that list should be pretty expansive as you build that out. But then ultimately, when it comes to effective marketing, those same 3 questions should be applied. Well, and I hear people tell me this all the time. I really want my book to be in book clubs. And I say, okay, why? And they go, well, what do you mean? I'm like, let's apply these 3 questions to book clubs. What are you creating? You're creating the opportunity for book clubs to learn about your book and share it with their book club. How are you delivering it to them? I mean, it'll be dependent upon how you're actually going to physically give the decision maker in the book club a sample of your book to decide whether they want to engage with it. And then what value do you want to capture from that? Well, I want the individual book clubs to, pick up my book and order them and read them and talk about it. Okay, well, then we get into the labor intensity of that. Like, how many sales am I really going to generate from that? And if I go back to my overall macro business model, does it meet the value I want to capture? Does it generate sales? Does it build credibility and veracity, or whatever I'm trying to accomplish? So those 3 magic questions are my magic bullet to determine both what I'm doing with a book and what marketing activities I do or don't want to do. Because people come with these grandiose ideas. I want to go out after librarians. I want to go after trade reviews. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, let's apply that want to your business model. Do they meet up in the middle? And if they don't, it's easy to check them off the list. And I can't tell you how much relief I see with clients I work with. I go, oh, I don't have to do that. I'm like, no, it doesn't make any sense for your business model. So we don't have to do that activity. And there's actually a sense of relief because they're able to narrow their focus more and more. So I can't give you one bullet, but I can give you the formula to decide what to do.
That's great. And you just brought up the 2 sides, creation and marketing, and how they support each other. So tell us a little bit about your podcrafting process for turning podcasts into books.
Oh, the Pinecraft process is something we've piloted in the last year. It's something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time. And we've been able to now have both the know-how and the technology to support being able to pull in all the content from a single RSS feed, a single podcast feed, get all of that podcast information in one spot, and be able to use the traditional practices that are best practices in ghostwriting and developmental editing to pull out the the host's authentic voice, the voices of the guests that they may have had, and the themes, and to be able to use that to craft books that are really, really world class, and use the podcast as effective source material. Yes. So yeah, it's really a beautiful process, and we're finding that these books are incredibly well received. And we've just had one release that without any marketing team, without any marketing budget at all, actually, in the first 4 days, hit #1 in Amazon Hot New Releases and #1 in one of their major categories.
That's great.
So I just want to touch on this. She's doing something that's really unique because it kind of reverse engineers the process. You have a podcaster that already has a platform and already has an audience. So you're repurposing their content to create another product. Right. And so you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations of a lot of the foundational marketing activities. So it's an absolutely brilliant way to approach creating a new product for someone who already has great content and an established audience.
Coming back to the audiobooks, they're already an audience that likes listening to audio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely on that. So Jared, tell us a little bit about Zoundry and your launch campaigns and audience building features, because I think you've created something really unique that could help a lot of authors in this respect.
Well, there's let me just tell you the origin story first, because I think it will help bring authors along to understand. So going back to the whole trying to find the right way to produce an audiobook, I had a client who wrote a beautiful memoir, and we shopped around for professional narrators, and we probably received samples from 10 or 15 narrators, and we just couldn't find the right voice who really captured the emotion. And she said, and this woman was her late 70s, and she said, I really want to create this audiobook myself. I know the voice and everything else. And I said, well, if you're going to do it, you need the right team. So one of my only clients that's actually local to me. She's about 45 minutes north of me. I found a studio that had been highly recommended to me. We met there. And I had met the owner. I walked into the studio. They had a director, they had the sound editor, and someone there just helping her along and walking her through the process. And they had scheduled her for 2-hour sessions per day because they knew it was going to be exhausting, which is, when I first heard that, I'm like, that's brilliant, right? And I see Tina nodding, like, that's what you need for someone who's never done this before. And the owner, Corey, said to me, hey, she's in good hands. Let's go chat and meet up. And so I nodded to her. She gave me, thumbs up, and we left. And I left her in the studio. So he and I went to go grab a bite to eat and get to know each other. And he's, asked me what I did, and I talked to him about book marketing and everything else. And he asked me what my pain points were. And I said, well, I love audio and I know the trajectory of it. And I kind of, sounded off on all the great statistics about audio and how it's going to be here for the long term, and how it's going to really take a huge bite out of the marketplace. And I said, but there's no really great ways to be able to effectively use it as a marketing tool. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, and I started rattling off all these things I'd like to be able to do. And I didn't know this at the time, but their studio had produced at the time 8,500, 8,800 audiobooks. I mean, from big publishers, the John Grisham books, and all down to the little guys like my author. And he said, well, let me show you something. And he has shown me this, I call it the ugly stepchild of what Zoundy has become. And it allowed a couple of the features that I had mentioned. And he said, why don't we build this thing out? So I was like a kid in a candy shop. I'll be totally honest with you. I probably drove our designer nuts because I kept saying to him, can you make it do this? Can you make it do that? Can you make it do this? And to their credit, they built everything out. And so I started using this for my clients a good year before we went public with it. And in a nutshell, what Zoundy is it is an audiobook marketing and engagement tool first and foremost. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how it can be used. So right now, whether you have a print book, an ebook, or an audiobook, when you throw it into distribution and people can buy it through Amazon or buy it through Spotify or wherever they get the different formats from, the consumer gets it and you have no idea who they are, where they're from, or anything else. It's not like Amazon's going to share that information with you. But information is power, and we also know that information can be leveraged in a lot of different ways. So one of the things our platform does is anyone who buys or downloads the audiobook for free, you get their name, email, and how they came to you. So you know exactly what promo you set up and where they come in from. So professional speakers, we have professional speakers that go out and do corporate gigs. What they're able to do with their audiobook through our platform is do bulk order fulfillment. So let's say they're getting $10,000 to do a speaking fee. They can say, hey, how about for another $2,000, everybody in your audience gets a free copy of my audiobook. So you can create a promo specific to that organization, and you can gift them a copy of the audiobook based on the number of people or whomever. You can customize the audiobook. So they do that speech, they record the audio for it, they can put it as the first track and make it a customized version for that audience. Sponsorship sales. You can turn around to sponsors who love your book and say, and by the way, these are all things that we've done so far. They can turn around to a sponsor and say, hey, how about you to an NGO and say, hey, how about you give this to all of your donors? You can do a welcome message at the front of the audiobook as the director of the NGO and give it out to them as a thank you. They love that. So you can cross promote. So major publishers can turn around and say, okay, if you like this, you can also listen to this, and you can do a first or second chapter and customize the book that way. First time authors or authors that don't have an established audience. Like I have an author who is a sci-fi writer, and she's got 3 books in her catalog at the moment. She took her first audiobook and gives it away for free like crazy to build those numbers. So then she can contact them and say, hey, I saw you downloaded this. Hope you enjoyed it. Here are my next 2 books in the series. So she can use it as a marketing tool to generate sales. Mm-hmm. From a marketing standpoint, I have found it to be extremely effective in interfacing with influencers, bloggers, podcasters, and so forth. So when I reach out to a podcaster, I can turn around and say, hey, here's the person, love to have them on. Here's their area of expertise. This is why your audience will stay engaged. You guys both know the deal, like the pitch, right? And I said, by the way, if you decide to have this person on, I'm happy to give you a promo code so 100 audience members or 1,000 audience members or whatever number I decide can download the audiobook for free. Now we're building an audience, right? Publishers who have a backlist of audiobooks and they'll take one and they'll give it away like crazy in order to build their own community that they can go back to with similar books, similar titles, and so forth. It really is absolutely limitless in terms of your engagement. When I pitch bloggers now, same thing. Hey, love to send you a complimentary copy of this book for review consideration. If you're willing to cover or feature it in some capacity, I'll give you a promo code where your audience can download 1,000 free copies of the audiobook. It is a game changer because what do they want? They want to be able to give something away for free. They want to keep their audience engaged. Their audience loves it. So I'm able to leverage visibility for my client, visibility for their book in a way I'd otherwise have to pay for advertising. So that, to me, like all of those things. And you can price it however you want. You can discount it however you want. You can run unlimited promos. So if I'm reaching out to 1,000 different bloggers, I can create 1,000 promos for the same audiobook, and I'll know where everyone's come in from. And then I can put more of my effort there. Even if I want to do advertising, and this is a huge thing because we spend so much money on advertising. If I want to run ads and I want to run A, B, and C ads on 3 different platforms and see what's resonating, now I can create customized promos to know where people are coming in from. So it's fantastic. We even have a bundling tool. So if you're a publisher that has 10, 15, 100, we have one publisher who's got 300 different audiobook titles on the platform, you can now take 3 or 4 titles and bundle them together and say, hey, you can get all 4 of these for a discounted price at X, Y, or Z. So it's a game changer. It truly
It's really freaking cool. It
is. It's an awesome. And like I said, I'm a kid in a candy shop, and the reason I'm so enthusiastic about it is because I never imagined it to become what it is. I just thought, hey, they're making this for me so I can play around with it. And now, we're kind of sharing it with the world.
At the risk of sounding like a QVC host here, I've been in marketing. I was a business coach for many years before I got into audio. And because Zoundy is a tool that was built I wouldn't say just, but by somebody who is an experienced book marketer specifically, and an audiobook company that knew what they were doing, there's nothing like that has existed on the market. And quite honestly, I'm so excited about it. I've been starting to promote it to my authors and whatnot because it solves a bunch of problems we've been wanting solved. And I love that you can own your own contacts, which so many platforms will gatekeep from you.
Yes.
And so it's just, I don't know, I kind of want to be like, oh my God, Jared, and tell me more. What are the bonuses? I immediately want to go into commercial voice. It's great.
Well, one of the caveats I always tell people too is we are not a replacement for having your book on all the retail platforms. I'm a big proponent of having your audiobook distributed as broadly as possible, just like I would say with your print book, just like I would say with your ebook. So have it on Audible, have it on Spotify, have it on everywhere and anywhere, available to libraries and anything else. We are a marketing tool and engagement tool first and foremost. Now, you can also set your book up for sale on the platform if you wish, but you're not obligated to do that. So for that example, I have authors say to me all the time, well, I'm Amazon exclusive, blah, blah, blah. Or, and I say it's exclusive, and I say, that's not a problem. You just don't make it for sale on our platform, but you can still use all of the marketing tools because you're not selling it. So we really tried to think of every scenario for everybody.
Yes. And I was just thinking as you were saying that, I think I received one of probably your product as a free gift. My business coach sent me a book when I first started with him, and I literally looked and said, how did you get this? This hasn't even been released yet. And so I'm betting that's how he got the audiobook, which he shared with me on it. So we've learned a lot about audiobooks, and I didn't even know they outsell eBooks. So when you create them right and you market them right, it's a winning combo. Jared, can you tell me where do we find out more about Zoundy? And I think you have a code to share with my audience if they'd like to try it.
Yeah, you can get all the information if you go to zoundy.com, zoundy.com. Every bit of information I shared with you that is on there. And anyone who wants to get 25% off can use the code Juliet25, and they'll get 25% off their subscription.
That sounds great. Tina, where can we find you?
You can always find me at twinflamesstudios.com. And everything we have is there, our audiobooks, our new podcast book services, and our complimentary panels that we host every month of expert panels where you can, as an author, jump in. They're all on demand and get different information each month about different aspects of the publishing world, of the book world, and get real world advice from people out there doing it every day.
That sounds great. You guys, thank you so much for being on the show. And I hope this works, this new Zoundy, because it sounds amazing. I'm going to go sign up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.